People who grew up with strict parents, what was their most unreasonable rule? Have a friend who isn't allowed to go out if he's already had too much fun this weekend. That's the only reason. They think he'll become corrupted if he has too much fun and that he won't know how to work. He's in college. I was not allowed to talk to boys. One Christmas Eve day, I was doing last minute shopping in the downtown of our little town. I ran into two male friends from my German class and we talked for several minutes and wished each other a Merry Christmas. Oh, I was 15 at the time. My older sister drove by and saw me. Told my parents I was hanging out with boys. When I walked in the house, both my parents were waiting and the yelling began. Some Christmas Eve. I wasn't allowed to say I died on Mario. I lost one of my chances to succeed. I had a ton. I think the most unreasonable was that we, my siblings and I, weren't allowed to know where we were going during car rides. If we'd ask, we were told business. And figure it out, we were going to the store. etc. Only after we arrived at our destination. This lasted until I moved out. Another was asking for permission to use the bathroom every time. This didn't last as long. My parents were slack. My best friend's parents were so strict. She would escape to my house for freedom. 12th grade. Prom. Her parents allowed her to go to prom but said she wasn't allowed to dance. We all went to prom. Had fun dancing. Until she saw her parents standing at the back watching. She then moved out for university. After her first year, she came home to work for the summer. She had been on her own for a year and supporting herself, and her parents gave her a 9 PM curfew. She spent a lot of time at my house that summer. She was married by the next summer and didn't have to deal with it. Edit. This is a small selection of the intense upbringing my friend went through. Tiny even. For every minute I was late coming in from curfew, I got grounded a week. I once spent 10 weeks grounded due to a sobriety checkpoint. Dad was a narcissist. Biggest rule in the house was not to make any noise around him. If he was home, the whole house got quiet and tense. Even my mom used to eat her cereal in the bedroom because she'd get in trouble for chewing crunchy food. Now she's long rid of him and married to a way better guy. But she still apologizes for eating crackers. I wasn't allowed to shrug. Or say I don't know. If anything tech related went wrong, it was assumed that I broke it on purpose. Even if the only reason anyone knew it was broken is because I was trying to fix it. Birthday parties were a no-go. Christmas was a no-go. Any party whatsoever was a no-go. I have too many to name growing up in an Asian household, but the one that was the most embarrassing was I was not allowed to shave my legs or armpits, and I hit puberty at an early age. So I had really hairy armpits and legs and was forced to wear shorts to gym class. I was so embarrassed about my legs that I would wear shorts with opaque pantyhose, which just made the whole situation worse and was the butt of many jokes in middle school. My mom has apologized thousands of times since. But it still brings back crappy memories. There were a lot, but the most ridiculous one to me was they didn't want me volunteering during high school. I was visiting the elderly and they said it was too dangerous to be around strangers like that and the time was taking away from my studies. Most extracurriculars I wanted to do they had a huge problem with, but it didn't hit me how absurd it was until it was about senior citizens. My mom was insanely controlling about food. Weird rules were in place, like 1 slice of lunch meat per sandwich. No one but her was allowed to cook. She'd make one giant batch of spaghetti or something and we'd have leftovers for days. So she only had to make dinner twice a week. She did not work or anything. Just didn't like cooking every day. Breakfast was cold cereal and you'd only be allowed a small bowl with just enough milk to moisten it. Occasionally she'd bake something she called corn toasties, which was simply cornbread baked in a sheet pan. She'd cut them into squares and fill the freezer with them, and we could have one of those for breakfast as an alternative. Once when I was 14 I bought a pack of hot dogs at the store. Snuck them home. And lit the grill. I was almost done cooking them when she came out screaming about fire hazards and swatted the plate out of my hand. She had been making spaghetti. What an ungrateful little bastard I was. So then she orders a pizza for the rest of my family, wraps individual servings of spaghetti in freezer paper, and puts them away. She tells me that I will be eating nothing else until it's all gone. Took about 2 months to choke it all down. Went without eating a lot of days. I was also grounded for over a year. But I sure learned a lot about consequences. Females of the family must cook and clean on holidays while males watch TV. Must bus males' plates every night. No visiting friends' houses, no friends over at our house all the way through high school. Hair cannot be cut at or above shoulder. 7 p.m. bedtime. Not curfew. Bedtime. Through junior high. Strictly enforced. Needless to say, I rebelled strong and hard. My parents were pretty slack on everything except one thing. No video games console ever. And no online games on the computer because that's how you get virus and make the computer unslow dart. So I was playing my morpg when they were sleeping. In a hidden file. In a file. In another file. In another file, and I was changing the appearance of every file icon. My father was very strict. I wasn't allowed to have alone time with my mother. He beat the it out of me constantly. But the oddest thing that still bugs me to this day is that he would burn all my things as punishment. And I get it. Seeing my toys and valuables burning sucked. And I probably learned some lessons. But he not only burned toys. He would burn everything. Every year or so for school we would go to Myer and buy me new school clothes and shoes. He would also burn those. Like sometimes days after he bought them. At 8 years old I remember thinking, you now have to buy me more clothes. But that wasn't the point, I suppose. He once took me to the Palace of Auburn Hills in Detroit to see the Globetrotters one year, and during the night he bought me a Globetrotters basketball and jersey. We had a fun night. The very next day, I had left something on the floor in my room, and his punishment, among other things, was to burn the basketball and jersey he bought for like $150 less than 24 hours earlier. It just never made sense to me. My friends would joke about it all throughout middle and high school. You can't have privacy, literally quoted from my dad. Oh god. I wasn't allowed to go out. Like ever. If I was gonna hang out with someone, it had to be on the weekend, planned at least a week ahead. And my parents had to meet their parents and drive me there. They would come get me before the sun went down. Not a rule. But if I got up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night or was reading because I couldn't sleep, my mom would come screaming up the stairs, "Why are you up?" and sometimes hit me. I wasn't allowed to close the door in my room. There's more, but that's what I can think of right now. Mostly my mother would just yell about everything. 30 minutes of internet time a day, and 99% of the time that was supervised, as in mom looking over my shoulder and commenting on conversations. We had WebTV, RIP, and when they weren't home, they would literally lock the keyboard in a toolbox. My sis and I could never have friends stay over because the house is a mess. No amount of cleaning satisfied mom. Because the real reason was she wanted to be able to fight with my dad at will. My mom was very strict about the ratings of movies and video games. One year for Christmas, a relative gave me a copy of Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64. It was a T14 rated game, and I wouldn't be turning 13 for another 4 weeks. My mom had my dad drive me to Toys R Us to return the game. We walked into the store and over to the games, and he had me pick out an E for everyone rated game. We proceeded to check out, and as we went to the car he handed me not only the new game but the game we were supposed to have returned to buy it as well, and told me not to let her catch me playing it. I was not allowed to wear makeup or shave until 16. My mom was controlling about food. Everything was kept track of. I had to be in marching band in order to get my permit. I had a job. But even if I worked second shift, which I did, and came home at 11, I would have to clear the plates from the table for the dinner that they ate. If I asked to hang out with a friend in the presence of said friend, the answer was automatically no. I was only allowed to do things if the friend or their parent was paying for it. The straw that broke the camel's back, and ultimately made me move out at 16, was that I had to live like a boarder. Showers cost $5. A load of laundry was $1 for washer. $1 for dryer. Telephone time cost $25 per minute. If my father yelled up the stairs to me, I wasn't allowed to yell back what? Instead I would have to come down the stairs to see what he wanted. Even if it was just to tell me something or ask a question. My mom's curfew was 7 PM and her brother's was 12 AM. Her brother was about 2 years younger than her, and my granddaddy's logic was that girls get themselves into more trouble than boys. My poor mother only ever attended church functions for fun until she graduated from high school. I'm a few months away from turning 18 and moving out. I'm still not allowed to sleep in the same room as my phone. I think it was when I came home for summer break during university and they tried to reimpose their 11 PM curfew. That was the last summer. Edit. Thanks for being nitpicky. That was pretty amateur, haha.